It's been half a century since the last American helicopters left Saigon. For the Vietnamese people who sided with the Communist North, the Vietnam War represents a long and bloody struggle for national reunification and independence, and victory over foreign imperialism. It began long before American troops landed in Saigon, and it concluded long after their helicopters departed. For those in the South, it symbolizes a lost homeland, a shattered republic that launched a mass exodus in the making of a resilient diaspora, especially in the United States. For American leadership, the Vietnam War is a cautionary tale of unclear objectives, political interference, and the limits of American conventional power in guerrilla warfare. For the American people, it brought about a national reckoning that fractured faith in leadership and ignited widespread protest, trauma, and cultural upheaval. But this is also a tale of economic rebirth that rivals the success stories of post-World War II Europe. By the time that North Vietnamese tanks crashed through the gates of the presidential palace in Saigon back on April 30th, 1975, the conflict's body count was staggering. Nearly 60,000 American troops had died, a horror in its own right. As many as 2 million Vietnamese civilians perished, along with 1.3 million Vietnamese soldiers, the majority hailing from the North Vietnamese side. The country was united. It was also, of course, in ruins. Over the next 2 decades, things stayed dark. The communist government implemented a Soviet-style centrally planned economy. Vietnam suffered mightily from economic mismanagement, food shortages, international isolation. The costly occupation of Cambodia from 1978 to 1989 deepened Vietnam's pariah status. Then the Berlin Wall fell, and with it, Vietnam's main backer. And that's where things got interesting, because it had long been communist Soviet Union, much more than communist China, that supported Vietnam. In fact, Vietnam had been resisting Chinese domination for over 1,000 years. They even briefly clashed with their northern neighbor back in 1979. So with the fall of the Soviets, Vietnam had little choice but to turn to its not-so-old enemy, the United States, for economic and political support. And, long story short, once President Clinton authorized the opening of trade and tourism with Vietnam in 1997, the country experienced an economic boom that continues to this day. In the past 20 years, Vietnam has fully integrated into the global economy, signing bilateral trade deals with the United States back in 2001 and the World Trade Organization in 2007. Vietnam's become one of the fastest-growing markets in Asia, one of the most stable governments in the region. Check the tag on your shirt. Chances are decent you'll see Made in Vietnam instead of Made in China. And that brings us to President Trump's Liberation Day on April 2nd, where he announced a staggering 46% reciprocal tariffs on Vietnam, though now he has paused it by 90 days. China's President Xi Jinping wasted no time to step in where President Trump stepped back, visiting Vietnam just a couple weeks later and urging the Vietnamese to, quote, resist unilateral bullying. Trump's response to that was as sober and measured as ever.
I don't blame China. I don't blame Vietnam. I see their meeting today. Is that wonderful? It's a lovely meeting. They're meeting like trying to figure out how do we screw the United States of America.
So now we see if Trump's unprecedented economic warfare will turn Vietnam to China for the first time in millennia. It would be one of many firsts in this brave new MAGA war.